This is IBM Museum. Just a little bit more extra content here. I'm going through, and after determining I have a SCSI drive in my IBM PS2 65SX that's not booting, I'm going to go through and swap it out for another drive just to see if I can proceed a little bit further to get OS2 2.0 installed. And I will have that in a separate video so that I don't have just this big, long string of video on that OS2 installation. So this is the drive that's in there right now, and it is at SCSI ID 6. I went through and I tried to even load MS-DOS on here, and that didn't work for me. So I'm going to go through, pull the drive. I actually should just use my spare. I have another one of these inserts or adapters that go through and adapt from the different lengths of screws. But maybe I can go through and I don't have, and that one even has a lock washer on it. I should have had some spare, collected a few spare screws, and then that way I could rotate through. And that's a standard 120 megabyte. And I went through and F'd this under MS-DOS. So I'll have to find out if that can be just used as basic storage or not. But it certainly just didn't want to boot for me at all. Okay. Now I do have, I may have to get my jumpers on. I may have to look through my little manual. I had a couple of these around $5 when I went through and got them, these quantum drives. And these are, it's a ProDrive ELS. Am I reading that correctly to be 170? No, it doesn't really. Doesn't really tell the capacity. And I thought these are good. And I don't, with the how I source these, I'm not necessarily going to care what exactly is on them. The end drive that I thought of using is this Maxter. And it's actually even on a sled. Thin sled came off of some other PS2. And this is a 540 megabyte SCSI drive. And its default, it's set to SCSI ID 6. This is what it says here. And that had to be on these marked jumper blocks here. I think for the quantums and the sourcing I have for them, that is, okay, here's your jumper block, and it actually has two jumpers, but they're set off to the side, so nothing's jumpered. and this other one has no jumpers at all. So effectively they're the same thing with those jumpers placed like that. And I just brought two because I figure, what the heck, for a $5 hard drive is so many years ago. So what I'm going to do is I'm going through and setting SCSI ID 6. That's the correct and I may have to get some tweezers out to get I guess even these jumpers are a little tweaked. Set that up in that precarious position. I thought I had my little slotted screwdriver around here too. That one is just about the right width to move those apart. And so the jumpers are marked A0, A1, and A2. And that typically means that the two high order ones are set. Then it would be SCSI ID 6. And SCSI ID being very critical. Termination also being one of those critical things. I do see terminating resistor blocks on this that are actually soldered in. It has resistor packs in there. Even has a fused, like a terminator block fuse in there as well. And so I probably don't need to put this back in the cage. I can probably just have it set otherwise. And we're the 65SX, so it's got those DS, those Dallas modules. And as long as it's SCSI ID 6, there's not really any type storage of the drive type to the CMOS setup. I do have that reference diskette. If needed, I probably should connect up power. And I just want to see what might happen to be on this drive. I don't really have a concern for what it is, but I want to make sure that I'm able to boot from a drive would be nice, because I don't suspect okay, I left all my other connections. I was working on another system, so I set the resolution correctly, but I did not connect up the VGA cable. Okay. So that's good. We're getting RAM count. And I had enough time with that long RAM count to connect that. And we have various bootable diskettes around if we need to. I don't know if I'd go through maybe like if I don't find anything on the drive, of maybe going through and seeing if I can get it to boot under DOS. Or even to the point of being able to not gain that invalid drive letter or anything like that would be nice. And I normally, when I pull these drives too, I should have gone through and marked what it is on those drives. What system they came out of would be even a primary benefit. I can't guess at the sled, that PS2 sled. It's relatively generic. So I don't have a diskette in the drive. Oh, so this says NetWare. So I might be concerned on what I have on this drive. And I'll probably, even once I post the video, I'll probably go through and pause and take a look and get some information on what exact network client that has on it. So, but that drive booted from on its own, so that is great. What we'll do, I will switch off the jumper blocks, and somewhere around here I have a lot of these tiny little jumpers. I've got the full-size ones too. So we're to the point where we know the drive boots. In the last step, we'll put that drive I plan to have in there. And I may not necessarily end up with an OS2 that I stick with. I just want to show the installation process a little bit. And see something work, and then I know that I can... In fact, it even sounds interesting that I might want to put an XGA adapter back in the system, because if I have a regular resolution, and OS2 2.0 does recognize the XGA adapter, so it'd almost be like the 65SX was seemingly the minimal target for the OS. And with XGA, you can run like the DOS programs and stuff like that. Not as full screen. You can run them as windowed applications. So, I'm not going to do that live where I connect up the power. Even though a Molex connector, I mean, I'm not sure it's going to go around, but I just don't want any surprises, any shorts. anything else. We can just bear through that memory count again. So, post it. And that's one of my pencils. I have to figure out how that one works. I'm trying to show it on Skycam. And that's just one of the, I got a couple of those around from my dad. There's even one, surprisingly, that one has an end that I can use, I could sharpen. I don't know what the company was trying to impart by that, but just some of the things I have around. And I did all that, and the system is still counting memory. So, okay. Post-it note. I want to put netware. And we're still counting memory? Okay. You can get that marked as netware. Okay. So this says nuh-uh. And still could be good, just doesn't have any information. And so, bearing that I don't want to, I'm just putting no boot on that. I'll post it, or marking it. And granted that this one doesn't have anything that I want to save, this is going to be should be my installation drive. Although it might be, I don't know, I just don't want to have run through another OS2 installation like on that no boot drive. Okay, this time I have power connected. Okay. Now I haven't heard that drive spin up yet, although it may take, some of these are set to spin up after the system initializes. And I do have power connected to it. And if I can't get that to spin up and boot, like the motor's shot or something, I may try the no boot drive. And I'd probably run just MS-DOS just to see if it's functional to save any information before going through the entire OS2 installation. That's what this process of this video is, to end up with a working hard drive that of contents that I don't care about if I overwrite it, that will install OS2. And I'm not, the drive I tried that booted the NetWare client stuff, I don't want to haphazardly erase that stuff. That stuff, okay, there the drive spun up. That's a typical more advanced. Okay. So we didn't get okay. So what I'm going to do here, and we'll, and at least warm boot doesn't go through that memory. I'm just going to run the MS-DOS setup. And I doubt if that would be, especially for the boot ID, the SCSI ID of 6, I doubt that that would be like a second drive in the system or something like that. Okay, so configure. Okay. So that should have prepped it. Although I may go through and see if I can just do a escape out of the DOS setup again and just format that drive. And I'm not going through and putting all of MS-DOS on there. Okay, so it is wanting to go through and format. And that should normally format /S to the drive. So I think I'm going to pause just to cut down on video length. We've been through this sequence before on camera. Okay, and I'm going to have it pause through the file copy process as well. But I've just determined I'm going to let the DOS setup go through and do its thing so that I can make sure that the drive just fully boots. Then I will get through and get it mounted, and that'll be a close of the video at that point. And then the next video up is going through where I'm prepped to go right to installing OS2 2.0 with no other roadblocks coming up. So I will be back in a moment. Okay, it completed the file copy process, and in case it wasn't seen before, I went through and put that MS-DOS book up just to kind of show in case the thumbnail selects that, because this is more of a MS-DOS installation than anything else. And I'm pressing enter on the keyboard after I've ejected the diskettes. And HiMem goes through to check all that 16 megabyte of memory too. Okay, and we are to a C prompt, and this is going to get overwritten, but I do have a drive for this OS2 installation now. So I will get this mounted in the cage. I'll probably invert it as it is, but I'll cover that in the video as well, just to show the top side of it and explain what the drive is. And but I am good to go on to the next video, finally onto that OS2 installation. And we can pull that off. And so if you like this extra content, please click on that like button. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already. There's going to be the off the wall and extra content like this as well. But that's all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.